Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Wait, Are These Guys Friends? I am Mike, and I am here with Randy. And today we're going to get weird and wild and wacky.
And
Except for a few
whimsical
moments where we don't. Yeah, whimsical. Whimsical's good. Yeah, I like
and
whimsical.
macabre and all sorts of
Macabre,
other.
dark. And then we're talking about Tim Burton all day. And you might wonder why is we had recorded a minute, we were thinking, oh, I'd love to do another battle, right? Actor battle, director battle. We were trying to find who can we match people up with? And there was a brief moment of Spielberg versus Burton, but their years don't align well for a battle. Even though their outputs over this outputs, even though there's, ugh, even though their output over like a 20-year period from 84 to 04 is pretty great each way, battling year to year just didn't work. So we thought, fuck it, let's just do Tim Burton.
It was a volume thing, right? Like Spielberg had 4 or 5 more movies, so it was hard to.
And also I felt like there was off years where even with the 4 or 5 movies, sometimes the years
Right.
Spielberg was working, Burton wasn't. Years Burton worked, Spielberg wasn't. And I guess we could have done like a total, but it's like you want the year to year is what you really want.
That's the fun
out of
part
that.
for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. So that said, we are going to talk Mr. Tim Burton, and we'll do a little background here. I admit I didn't look up like his schooling history and his childhood, but film-wise, he was doing a lot of shorts in the 70s and early 80s, which led to Frankenweenie, which was kind of the big breakthrough short that a lot of
Yep.
people know and have heard of, and got a animated big budget remake years and years later that he shepherded, obviously. I'll be real, I haven't seen Frankenweenie the short. Have you?
I haven't seen the what do you call it? Live action, sure. I guess if you want to call it that. I haven't seen that one. I have seen the animated remake. My son was a big fan
but
of it.
Speaking specifically of this period that launched him, I was hoping maybe you'd seen the short, but we're starting weak. But you know why it's okay to start weak? Because we don't talk about shorts or TV or uncredited appearances on these types of battles. We are talking strictly feature film length releases, which means that the first movie we're going to talk about is a big one, both for many people overall and in 1985's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Randy, I know you love this movie.
Big fan. So
yeah,
and
I gave it a rewatch. I have thoughts. It's not vitriolic. I don't know. I find a lot of faults in it. Maybe I just didn't care for it as much. Maybe it's an age thing. I don't know why it fell off for me, but I'd love to hear your reasons why you love this movie, and also just why maybe what a debut for Tim Burton. Why was this the perfect debut for him to, just come out of the gate with?
So it's also notable that a lot of Tim Burton's start was with Walt Disney in the animation department, doing a lot of art direction and other things like that. So some of that is seen throughout in his style, whether he's bringing in stop motion or he's bringing in anything just visually. He brings sort of these cartoonish qualities to life, and not in a silly, over-the-top way, but somehow there are ways that, whether it's overdramatic colors or specific sets, like things look kind of cartoony brought to life. And Pee-wee is a great example of that, merging a character that Paul Reubens really started in the Groundlings more as it was a little more vulgar when he first started that character, but they found this kind of happy medium of the childlike wonder of Pee-wee in a world, and he just created this world, especially just from the opening scene, right? Within Making Breakfast is just this Rube Goldberg meets I don't even know what. And so you're brought into this world immediately at the beginning of this movie, and it's a perfect meshing of character and surrounding visuals. So it's a good marriage in that regard.
And the interesting thing, and I'll say before we get into the movie and Pee-wee, which I want to talk about a lot of stuff, I will say that whatever lackadaisical thoughts I may have wound up having about the movie, so many early signs of how great Tim Burton is going to be in this film. I can separate his creativity and his visual eye from my lack of enthusiasm. It is a beautiful movie. It is a great looking film. Also, great sounding film. The Danny Elfman score is just phenomenal. I might like this one a little bit better than Batman, but it might just be the wackiness of it. So much about it is good, and this is one of those ones where I get it, right? I'm not sitting
Hmm.
here going, what are you guys doing? Burger, burger, it's not that. I get it. But there's just something for me that didn't click on this rewatch. But I'd like to hear more now you've talked about Tim Burton. Why do you love this movie? And then I'll kind of maybe rebuttal a little, go back and forth.
Sure, and I think it speaks largely to a lot of Tim Burton's movies where he wants to bring us into this world through the eyes of his characters. And this is life in the world of Pee Wee Herman. So we're seeing it as he sees it, as opposed to not necessarily the real world that is surrounding him. At times we get the exhaustion and the exasperation of those. I think about the basement meeting scene where he just basically has the entire neighborhood sitting there for hours and hours as he just kind of rants and raves. Candidly, that's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie just because it's silly. But there is a lot of it where the story woven through may not be as important in real life, but to the characters that we're seeing it through, it's really important. And I think that's the difference, the kind of twist that we get from a perspective standpoint. So while the story line, and this I think runs through a decent amount of Burton's movies, may not necessarily hold up when you look at it and you go, that's the plot. Huh. But when you see it through the importance of the character that he's trying to show it through, it makes a little more sense. And I enjoy getting the chance to see it from that point because I mean, I'm a big fan of cartoons. I'm kind of a kid at heart. And so when I saw it, I was a kid, right? But it
Same.
continues to pull that through. So I'd be curious. I have not seen it in the last probably 2 or 3 years. So I'd be curious if I saw it again, if I would have the same.
You would still love it. I cut you off. Please finish your thoughts, and I'll.
No, I was pretty much done. So go for it.
So I loved Pee-wee's Playhouse as a kid, and I remember watching this movie when I was young and Big Top Pee-wee, and maybe this would say something about who I grew up to be with my fandoms, where I do hold this type of stuff in high regard. I realize it doesn't matter because of literally everything you just said. This is a tale that lives in this world, and it's presented for the journey and the comedy, right? Mm-hmm. But as a kid, it bothered me that Pee-wee didn't live in the Playhouse. It bothered me that in both of these movies, it's a completely different circumstance. And where's Cherry? And where's Johnny? And where's all these people? And that bothered me as a kid, which is why I never glommed onto it. As an adult, I was having just watched this yesterday for the first time in maybe 15 years minimum. I was prepared to be like, I bet I like this more now. And I haven't watched. I remember enjoying more. The big special that kind of launched him in was that 1981 version of the stage show that aired on HBO. And that was all right. It had Phil Hartman, and, it was great in those regards. But I just didn't glom onto this. It's intangible. I can't give you a good thing. This isn't like The Goonies, where I hated it because I was forced to watch it after school every day, I feel like, in daycare. That and Labyrinth, movies that I'd probably love otherwise, I developed an unnatural hatred for because it was like being forced to watch them in prison, I think. It was just every day. They're like, oh, you love these movies. Here you go, kids. But this is the only movie of all of them that I took a lot of detailed notes about when I rewatched it. Do you mind if I hit a few?
Okay.
I did appreciate the Mr. T cereal. It was 1985. He was at his peak. Cultural relevancy. First WrestleMania. Fantastic. Question. I know you are, but what am I's prevalence? Is that because of Pee-wee, or did he just also do that?
That's a good question. I think he elevated it, if nothing else. So, this may have been a playground taunt, but I think Pee-wee did it to the fact where I heard it a lot more after this. How about that?
Okay. The score carries the movie, I feel like, which I already mentioned. It really keeps things moving along.
And he wanted Mark Mothersbaugh originally. That's the interesting part about that.
Devo?
No, yeah, of Devo, right?
Yeah.
So but they ended up that's who Rubens wanted to score the movie, but he ended up getting Mark Mothersbaugh to do the Pee-wee's Playhouse theme. So they ended up working together later. So.
Lovely. And then the only other thing I really want to say is, two things. I love that Pee-wee is respectful enough to tell his neighbor about watering his lawn. In a lesser movie with a more unlikable character, he'd just turn it on. The comedy would be that the water went to the house. Like, that's good for him. I actually have an upstairs neighbor that I get along with 95% of the time, but they have a hole in their balcony and they overwater their plants and they refuse to accept that the water that floods my balcony is because of the hole. They're like, no, it's just overflowing. You're fine. I'm like, no, there's a hole in your fucking balcony. It's been 3 years and they won't listen to me about it. It's the only frustrating thing. Otherwise, we get along fine.
So you were triggered by that part with the watering.
Yeah, a little bit. Now, the last thing I'll say regarding, what's the name of the villain, the rich kid that steals the bike? Francis. The issue I think I also had with this movie as a kid is when you're very young, you glom on to an actor and they're that character. You know what I mean? And you can't process that they're another character.
Did you see Teen Wolf first?
I absolutely saw Teen Wolf first. And as a kid, I loved Teen Wolf. I still love Teen Wolf. You typecast people, and in one of the most insane mental typecastings ever, I think I realized I didn't like this movie as a kid because the fat guy from Teen Wolf, who was so nice and cool in that movie, is an awful jerk here. And I was like, I don't want this world. I don't want what this is selling me. So there's
things that potentially broke my brain were the potential Francis casting. I don't know if you got into this at all.
I did not. But I kind of checked out on trivia for this one.
Got you. So Corey Feldman, who seemed to be a potential casting for any 80s movie where there were kids involved.
He was too young for Francis, wasn't he, in 1985? Way too young.
Yeah, I guess they could kind of skirt the issue because Pee-wee could, in theory, argue with a 15-year-old or a 40-year-old, right? Like
he was 14 in 85, and I just maybe because of the movie, I feel like with Pee-wee being a man-child, you need a man-child.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
All the more bizarre the other two. That Louis Anderson was one, which would have been interesting, or Rick Moranis, which was strange.
He might make me like the movie more with his ad-libbing and what he could have brought to it. I think
they liked his character. Right, they liked his character in Ghostbusters, and were kind of thinking that sort of nerdy, but like an even more annoying. I don't know. So I think it worked for what it worked. I mean, it is. I think. He was a pretty hateable, annoying rich kid.
Oh, yeah, it worked out. Stand by, I'm looking up one thing. Rick Moranis. I mean, I'd prefer what Rick Moranis did in 1985. He was at Brewster's Millions in 1985. I knew he'd do something I liked. I'd take him over that. Take him in that game. But Pee-wee's Big Adventure budget of $7 million with a $41 million in 1985 domestic gross. We're not going to hit inflation numbers a lot. I have one movie I've got them parked that I'm saving the inflation numbers for.
Yeah.
Just to get
I did the same thing, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so. I know exactly.
Because it's staggering.
Roger Ebert did not review this movie upon its original release. However, in 87, he put out a guilty pleasures list, and it topped the list. Innocent, playful, eccentric. He was a fan.
Check out that video if you can find it on YouTube, the Guilty Pleasures of 87 episode of Siskel and Ebert. There's some interesting movies in there.
Meanwhile, Siskel included the film in his unranked year-end list of worst movies of 85. So those two, they had their differences from time to time.
Siskel's take was that he liked Pee Wee Herman on like a talk show or in a 5-minute burst, and he said he just couldn't deal with it for beyond that, and that's since this movie just stayed with that.
You know what that makes me think of is it was a Carson thing. It was a little bit of a Letterman thing with like the old guy with the glasses that talk like glass. You know what I'm talking about?
Larry Bud Melvin.
Larry Bud Melvin. There used to be an era where a talk show, like I can't remember the last time they did it. Maybe it was Letterman, where just a random character that is clearly just an actor playing a character. And not like a goofy Conan-style character. Like they're embodying this role, would just show up for appearances and be like the guest that week. Like the Reverend who showed up on SNL. And then he was, do you know who I'm talking about? The priest? I'm looking at Father Guido Sarducci. He was a character from Don DeVello. And he was one of those 70s, 80s characters that just showed up and he seemingly embodied it. You didn't see him out of character like Pee-wee. If he was
Right.
on, he was that character. But he wasn't making movies. His life was just showing up in cameos as that character. And
It's
that's
like
just
the
odd to
Tony
me
Clifton thing with Andy Kaufman,
yeah.
right?
And that just fell off at some point. And I don't know when that happened, I guess.
Hmm.
So, anyway, that's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He takes a couple years off. That's 85. His next big movie is in 88, and it's a big movie. But in the interim, we're not going to get deep into it. He does do a couple episodes of TV. I do find it interesting that he didn't direct any films after Pee-wee in 86 or 87. I'm not sure how long he was prepping 1988's Beetlejuice, our next film, but that's a gap, right? When you're an up-and-coming filmmaker who just had a hit, that's a surprising gap in the resume person.
And I think it showed that he was willing to stick with what he wanted to do, right? It's he didn't just switch to take as soon as something hit, he was going to try something. He would wait for his opportunity. And I mean, as we see, like there's only like one thing that didn't make money as we keep going through the whole thing. That it is very bankable what he decided to do.
I do have one great bit of trivia from this era that ties back to, for longtime listeners, a favorite moment of ours, I think. He turned down what was, quote, a lot of disheartening scripts is the exact term that was used, passing on projects while he tried to find something that, had his voice, like we're talking about. Do you know one of the scripts that Warner Brothers offered him to direct that he turned down? Think 1988 Disaster that we've talked about a couple of times. And I'll say one other name, and you'll get the title immediately. John Candy.
Which one?
Hot
was
to
that?
Trot, where he voiced the fucking horse.
That's right. Yeah.
They offered Tim Burton Hot to Trot with, I believe, Bobcat Goldthwait and John Candy. So just
wasn't he
what
like
a disastrous
he was
film.
Mortified by it, right, and turned it down?
Yes, exactly. So just which, by the way, as you may recall, that film had a $9 million budget, $6.4 million box office, won 5 Golden Raspberries, including Best Picture, and John Candy voiced a horse that talked to Bobcat Goldthwait. So
about stock tips.
Now here's my question: could this have been the film? Tim Burton, could he have made it happen? And that's only a half sarcastic question. How talented was he in this era that he could have raised that film up to something? Or obviously he probably made the right call. I'm just curious. Let's fantasy book for a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, it almost becomes more surreal, right? Like I think maybe the horse is separated. Like they tried to make it as screwball as possible in the actual movie, where you just kind of, they're off to the side, but maybe it becomes more dreamlike when the horse talks to Bobcat Goldthwait.
I feel like we're making it too dark and too dreamy. See, I don't even what you're talking about.
But I think that's what he'd do to it, right? Like, I mean, I don't know.
I think that you're thinking
he would argue for his people. Bobcat Goldthwait would not be in this movie. That would be part of it.
I tell you right now, I think the way you're describing the film is late era Tim Burton and not 80s era Tim Burton. At least not at this point.
Yeah, because he did like kind of madcap. I mean, look what we're about to talk about.
Exactly. Now, that would change by the 90s, but in this specific era, I don't think we'd get that type of film person. That said, I've already said it once, so we should be careful. The next film we're talking about is Beetlejuice.
Although, given we'll get into it, his original casting choice for Beetlejuice, I have no idea what he would do with Hot to Trot. So but
you know what? That's a fair point. But just, I don't remember. Did we talk about this film when the sequel came out, or did we only talk about the sequel? But just
briefly, because I never saw it. I think you were waiting to not spoil when I still haven't seen it.
Did you still never see it?
Yeah, it's on me.
It is fine and perfectly serviceable. Here's what I'll say: the best thing about the Beetlejuice sequel is, it didn't ruin the legacy of Beetlejuice like so many sequels could.
There you go.
Even if, as a fine film with a few fine moments, at least it didn't take a big giant shit on this classic. which had
Yes.
a $15 million budget and $85 million gross. Skyrocketed Michael Keaton into the stratosphere, Tim Burton into the stratosphere. Was Alec Baldwin already a star, or did this skyrocket him too?
It certainly helped. I think
Yeah.
he'd been known, and then this was part of his run where he really started to go. So same with Gina Davis. I mean, really
Yes, yes. And I'll listen, I'll
went on a
say it.
rider.
I'll
Same thing.
say it. God, I realize I shouldn't body shame because I'm a big man trying to always lose a little bit more weight. Alec Baldwin's so goddamn skinny in this movie. He's in the best shape of his life. I'm not 100% this is true, but that scene in 30 Rock where they briefly show the when he was in the hotness bubble in the 80s, I'm like, is that just a scene from Beetlejuice? Because goddamn, he's making things happen.
Yeah. How young was he? I mean, he was youthful.
He was youthful. Let's see. I got the Googles. How old was Alec Baldwin in 1989? He was 31, so I thought he
Okay.
might even be young. That said, Beetlejuice. Do I gotta talk about what Beetlejuice is about? It's about a paranormal or it's a ghost who tries to get rid of humans, but he's fucking insane and evil. A couple dies. They don't know how to handle it. It's just a delight, right? I
Yep.
can't do it justice. That said, it is the first time he works with Jeffrey Jones, which will be a regular thing. Let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Child porn, arrested, didn't end well, bad person, shockingly still works sometimes. Thank God not the sequel. They used stock footage and a body double. They didn't
Yeah.
use stock footage, they hit his face. So
Right.
he's represented but not really in it. But man, this movie is so funny, and Beetlejuice, Michael Keaton, feels like a bigger part of the movie than he really is.
Yeah.
He's
It's
barely in this
crazy
movie.
how
I've
much
seen like
he's in
20
it. Yeah.
minutes, but
Yep.
he dominates it, steals it. You're waiting for him. He's amazing. And then this is the Tim Burton style. This starts
Yeah.
the Tim Burton style. Pee-wee had the influences, but this is what you think of when you think of Tim Burton. The first thing you're really thinking of is Beetlejuice. Talk to me
And
about your thoughts on this movie and what you got.
so the other thing about this movie is they were given of the $15 million budget, $1 million of it was set aside for visual effects. And to some, if you're presented with this kind of script or this kind of situation where you need to create this big world, that might spook some people because you're like, how are we going to create this? We're using CGI or how we're going to use models or whatever. Burton
Well, they
actually was kind
definitely
of like,
weren't wondering about CGI in 1988. I just want to make sure you're aware of it.
fair, whatever's before CGI. So,
I mean, it was claymation. There's a reason
yeah,
that listen, we always bring it back to Jurassic Park. There was a reason that they were testing with the claymation stop motion dinosaurs, and then when they saw the first CGI model, the animator went, "Well, we just went extinct."
yeah.
It's what they had. Stop motion.
Well,
is
and
what
I
they
guess
had.
not CGI in traditional sense, right? I'm thinking more like, I don't know, Max Headroomy or whatever. So, but I digress.
So practical effects that look like they could be computer.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
But Burton wanted this to look kind of cheap. And so he loved that B movie style look to the effect. So he was actually excited that he could work with that and was able to work within that budget to make what they were trying to create. And his production designer that he brought into this guy named Bo Welsh, was he worked with him a whole bunch later. He would work with him on Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns. Fun side thing, Catherine O'Hara and he met on the set of this movie, and they got married. So
I saw that. Isn't
fun
that
little-
lovely? And RIP, she's still been in the news
mhm.
about what she was going through. But man, that's a good run there.
It's
40-ish
this
years.
movie is just kind of, strap in and see what happens, right? Like you're wildly along for the ride, and it's kind of gross at times. It's kind of it keeps you guessing the whole way. And I mean, what else could you say about the banana boat song scene? I mean, I don't think I ever knew Harry Belafonte music before this.
A whole generation got introduced to Harry Belafonte because of this. And the same, like I explored beyond the two songs that were in this film, and I became a fan. I have a whole host of songs on my phone from Harry Belafonte. And this and that Muppet Show episode that was on Nickelodeon. Because
Right.
I saw this I saw this. Then, like, at some point, indiscriminate later, I saw that episode of The Muppet Show in a rerun, and they had the Deo song in it. Banana Boat song, officially the name of it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's that guy. And then it gets just locked into your brain.
I always had parallels in my head to this and the Addams Family, like the show more than the movie or anything, because it was this sort of silly look at the spooky or the macabre or any of that type of thing, where there is still humor and comedy that can be mined from this type of thing, even though it's freaky to think the fact that there are ghosts haunting a house. The silliness that goes into the fact that just as tough it is to try and keep them away, it's tough for them to stay and properly execute a haunting, right? And there's humor and amusement in that, or something that they thought was going to freak out these people, them dancing to Harry Belafonte, and instead all the people were delighted that they were overtaken and doing the calypso and everything around. So it just, to turn that on its head and not just make it a traditional kind of ghost story, is a lot of fun. And I think that's it. Then you add Keaton's performance on top of it, which is just every minute he's on screen, you're just like, good Lord, this is 100 miles an hour.
It fascinates me too that I mentioned earlier the difference between the movie and like the show for Pee-wee, and yet I feel like a hypocrite because as a kid, I adored the 3-season run of the Beetlejuice cartoon. I thought it was so funny and so creative, but it cannot be more different than the movie.
Yeah.
It's Lydia and Beetlejuice are best pals who hang out in the afterlife and bounce between the real world and the afterlife. He has wacky skeleton friends that he hangs out with, like Jacques the skeleton in the afterlife. And I just think now I'm a hypocrite because I love that show and that could not be more. Where are the Maitlands in the cartoon? They're not even mentioned. Why? What happened here?
Well, that's more just like wisecracking Beetlejuice, right? Like it was,
yeah,
I mean, he wisecracks here, but
he's not trying to rape or murder anyone like I feel he would in this show.
Yes,
by the way, the AI algorithm of YouTube's going to love me in this episode where I've mentioned child P and R word in the same 10 minutes. This episode ain't getting seen by anybody. Suppressed. But a few trivia things. Michael Keaton ad-libbed a lot of his lines, showing how truly funny he was. Because it's weird. We'll talk about it in a minute. There was the Batman Backlash. He was a comedian. He was a comedy actor. Michael Keaton's favorite film of his own, which is probably why he always held on that he would come back as Beetlejuice. He was always willing to come back as Beetlejuice. Have you heard the name of the movie trivia bit? I'd heard this one for years. I love this one.
I didn't know it until I looked it up just recently, but please, it's pretty funny.
The studio originally wanted to call the film House Ghost. Tim Burton thought it was terrible, so sarcastically he suggested Scared Sheetless and was horrified when the studio was like, hey, that's not bad. They considered it. It's like, oh, dear God. So, but yeah, not much else here for me personally, other than just this is the style, if not cemented, is here. It's arrived. The style has arrived. He's making crowd-pleasing hits, visually distinctive, different feeling than anything else that's coming out in this era also.
Yeah, and starting to develop some of his folks, right? Like whether it's actors and actresses, a lot of production designs, writers, things like that. This is the screenwriters for this movie. Actually, you mentioned he had directed a couple episodes of TV and things like that. That's where he met the screenwriters for Beetlejuice, was on Alfred Hitchcock Presents TV show that he directed.
And I will tell you that thinking about how he's one of those directors that kind of develops the stable of actors, the cadre of people he keeps casting over and over. I will say that even though I like him in the 90s, boy, am I glad Johnny Depp wasn't movie level yet, because I wouldn't want him in this anywhere that I could think of. And not even from a modern standpoint. Like, I don't see his mood or vibe working in this film. And I really think that some of the upcoming films, as good as he is, Tim Burton became too reliant on him, and it really suffered films that maybe could have grown otherwise. And I'm just glad to not see him yet, is really what I'm trying to say.
If he was like terrible, a douchebag boyfriend trying to get with the
I don't
Winona
want that in
Ryder
this film.
and be no, I'm just saying like that wouldn't
Yeah.
bother me. I don't think it needs it
Okay.
at all, but like but yes, as a main character, stay away. So real quick, because I mentioned it
Yeah.
before, the casting things, Tim Burton's
Oh,
original
yeah,
casting
I
choice for
know this.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Oh,
Sammy
it's
Davis Jr.
hey, I'm the Beetlejuice Batman. Da-da-da-da-da. Hey, babe.
The
It's
producers
it'd be interesting.
also were thinking about Dudley Moore or Sam Kinison, which is a wildly different movie with either of those.
Yeah, my
And it was
goodness.
actually David Geffen that suggested Michael Keaton. So,
That's
and
great.
thank God for that.
I am curious. This movie obviously comes out in '88, and Batman's out in '89. Gosh, that's a short turnaround, really. I
Yep.
didn't really look. Did he just go? Obviously, he got offered Batman off the back of this success.
Yep.
Was I know, I'm going to look into a couple of things. Actually, do you mind if we pause for us real quick? Because I want to look up some quick trivia to see if I'm lying about something.
Okay.
And then we can continue on. Or you can keep talking while I look it up. You do you.
Yeah, I'd be curious. Maybe because of all the visual effects, Beetlejuice took longer. Maybe they filmed it first and then, or kind of pieced it all together. Maybe it took longer in post. Or
I was trying to look for casting timelines, but it's as simple as we think it is. This was a hit, so they just kept working together. But that moves us into 1989's Batman.
Thank you, Danny.
So this movie has a budget of 48 with a box office of 40. Jesus, I can't talk today.
Move the decimal.
$48 million budget with a $411.6 million box office. This is the one where I wanted to bring up the adjusted for inflation numbers so that people really get a sense of how big this movie was. I don't want people to see, 500 million. That's pretty good, but whatever. No. In 2026 dollars, this would have grossed roughly $1.3 billion.
Yep.
This movie was massive. And you could not escape it as a child of the 90s. Because I was born in 83. You were born in 80, what? 82? I forget.
80.
80. Good, my goodness. But so, you were maybe a little bit more of a child of the 80s. But as someone who was in kindergarten when this movie came out, my first costume I remember for Halloween was my mom making me a Batman costume out of felt. It was
every
great.
Kid of the 80s was Batman at one point or another.
100% that is accurate. And it changed the look of the character, the feel of the character. It developed the character for years. And listen, you would get a solid 6 to 7 years with a very dark, serious take. Now, don't get me wrong. He credits things like The Dark Knight Returns from 1986 and Frank Miller, which was actually kind of the mid-'80s revolution of that dark, gritty, whatever that helped to evolve things. It was all taken as a unit. But for the massive, general public, this changed the image of Batman from Adam West. This is, and don't get me wrong, there are things that I don't like about this film as a fan that are weird choices that I know Tim Burton made.
Yeah.
But the movie is also so engrossing and gorgeous, I get past them.
And the main thing for a good superhero movie, honestly, does your villain deliver? And oh boy, does Jack ever? So,
and listen, they had to do this because there's no way they're ponying up sequel money to Jack Nicholson in 1989. Yep. I wish they hadn't killed the Joker. He was too good, and I bet they regretted killing the Joker because I think they would have driven a dump truck of money up to Jack Nicholson to come back if they could have. But my God, Michael Keaton is great, and he earns his status as Batman. He shut up all the people who were critics, but this is Jack Nicholson's movie. I mean, my goodness, and it's not just his and that, it's Jack Nicholson, let's overlook it. He embodies this. He is amazing. He is so entertaining. He's just scene-stealing, wacky, vindictive, murderous. And I know we're talking less about Tim Burton here, but just he crafted this. He worked with him. And Jack Nicholson loved working with Tim Burton so
Yep.
much. We'll get to Mars Attacks later. The reason he did all the weird shit he did in Mars Attacks is because he accepted that movie without a script because of his experience working with Tim Burton on Batman.
He said Burton basically kind of left it open, and he loved that environment where it was just kind of not free form, but he kind of just let the scene go. He wasn't overcommitted on certain things, overprotective on certain things. He let things happen. He said it was one of the most free sets he felt like he was on for a movie, and he loved that for inhabiting that character.
That's really cool. And that's great to hear about his style, like Tim Burton's style, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know. My gut reaction, I don't know the man. I haven't been on his sets. My gut reaction is not controlling meanly, but his stuff is so him that I would, in my gut, be like, no, he's clearly really guiding, handing this. But it's great to hear that's not the case.
I think that stems back from his art direction background, right? Like, so he thinks if he controls the visual, then he can kind of let people inhabit that space. And then the characters will kind of fall into line. I think that seems to be his way of approaching it. And it's interesting how much that seems to work, because if what you're seeing, like the actors kind of blend into it.
But that still shows his strength as a director for reining it in and guiding his scripts and working with his team. Because there's another director who I've heard of just let the actors develop and left a lot of it to them. And that was George Lucas on the prequels. And they often talk about how they felt like they had no guidance and they didn't know what they were doing. Now, admittedly, they were often working in screens and not sets. And having that around you can inform that. But to me, that just shows more of Burton's skill, where he can not work with the actors as closely as other directors and still get that type of product.
He's also working with better scripts, and not writing it himself.
Help.
So that helps. So.
But I think that's what I'm saying, is that he's guiding his team more. He's working with his writers, working with people I'm just giving him more credit for a similar sounding environment, but knocking it out of the place.
Yeah, sure.
Trying to look at other stuff, thinking of other stuff. Anything else go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the Michael Keaton thing is interesting because he felt so strongly that it would be too easy to determine that Bruce Wayne was Batman or vice versa. So he originally was like, hey, should I put different contacts in when I'm Batman, all this other stuff. And then he settled on, whenever he was Batman, he would speak in a lower register than when he was Bruce, which is what Kevin Conroy picked that up. Christian Bale, like everybody did that going forward. So it was like really, but he was the one, I think, that started that, which is cool.
And yes, which is absolutely staggering to think about his legacy in that regard. Mm-hmm. And regardless of how bad The Flash was, people were clamoring for years for him to do something. It wasn't The Flash what I would have actually wanted. What I've always wanted was Michael Keaton to be old Bruce Wayne in a Batman Beyond movie, because that cartoon and some of those things were some of the best Batman media ever. You get Michael Keaton in to be old Batman, old Bruce Wayne, with Terry doing, futuristic Batman shit. Oh my God. Just,
never say never.
They had the money. They have the bucket of money, and they just lit it on fire and did something else instead. It's right there. It was served to them on a platter. Everyone wants it. Every
DCU,
Batman
if you're
fan
listening.
Wants it. Oh God, it's sorry, nerd.
It's still there. Like
it is.
Keaton could totally do it, right? Well, did he in the Batman Beyond stuff? Was he in the Batcave? Or?
Yeah, but he got out. He was. He was the man. Ned at Spider-Man movies. He was the man on the ground. He was the man at the computer, guiding, working with.
Right. No, but I mean, so you could do that. I mean, Keaton could do that when he's in his 70s. You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. Like
my issue is I don't think Keaton will come back now. He did that. He did the comeback. It was not great. He won't do it again. I think we wasted the opportunity.
Not his fault.
Yeah, it's not.
It's annoying.
But still, I'm sad. Looking up other stuff. I'm trying to think what I'll say. He does a lot of visual references to classic 30s and 40s films. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was in reference with the lounge to the afterlife in both in Beetlejuice, and also some of the set design, I think, from the when Nicholson's getting the bandages off
Yep.
for turning into the Joker. Just staggering stuff.
I mean, the one thing I've got that this is a going to be a recurring theme here that while Burton doesn't win an Academy Award for directing, his movies often win Academy Awards for something else, usually related to visual, and this one won for art direction. So.
Oh, that makes sense. Confirming, tell me if I'm wrong. That said, for whatever his things may have won, he has never personally gotten an Academy Award, correct?
Correct. I'm just saying his movies have a tendency to
no,
Beetlejuice won for makeup, like, and there's a lot of art direction and visual effects Academy Awards that show up for his movies.
I just wasn't sure if anything that had won, he was not as a director also credited on for anything.
I don't believe so.
Just
no,
got
right?
The writing Oscar, stuff like that.
Yep.
Gotcha. But next we move on to Edward Scissorhands, which I like a lot. 1990s Edward Scissorhands. It's you can joke about Johnny Depp's illness, but this is a real breakout role for him, and he's great in it. 90s Johnny Depp is really good.
He was really committed to this role too. He lost a bunch of weight for it. He studied Charlie Chaplin films to find a way to bring about sympathy with that barely talking, just doing, emoting with his face, because that's one of the main things we think of when we think of Ed, right? Like we just think of this, we no matter what, almost, amazed at not amazed, but just like shocked and trying to he's almost meek and worried about everything in the world because he's not a human, he's a humanoid.
Yeah. It's a little bit of the Frankenstein story to some degree, but with less, I don't know, I think less fear, obviously, because he's taken in by a suburban family, falls in love with Winona Ryder, who's Tim Burton. And last performance of Vincent Price, who it gives me the first scene in Up vibes. I'm so sad when Vincent Price passes away in this film. Like he's barely in it, and it just kind of destroys me every time.
And to think about in real life, Vincent Price in the original script had a larger role on this, and to think about how much, he was battling emphysema and Parkinson's at the time, and so that's why he had lesser, and all the more impressive that he still is as much gravitas as he does. But also when Tim Burton was just starting out, one of his first shorts that he created was about I think a kid that is an ode to Vincent Price, essentially, that he sent to Vincent Price, and Vincent Price said, wow, this is terrific, this is great, like reached out to him specifically, and that had such an impact on Burton that he'd always had loved Vincent Price growing up in all of his movies, and so it was meant a huge deal to him for him to be in this movie.
I was desperately trying to find, so when you look at the IMDb for Tim Burton, there is it's something that he had recorded on the set of Edward Scissorhands. He doesn't release till 1994, direct to video after Ed Wood. It's called A Visit with Vincent. It's a documentary about his time on set with Vincent Price. I tried so hard to find this anywhere, any streaming service. YouTube often has obscure shit like that. I could not find this. I want to watch that so bad, just to see the Tim Burton on set with Vincent Price sitting down having conversations with him. I would watch the shit out of that just to talk theory with him.
Did you see if Vincent Price could not have done it, which I'm sure he just would have done it anyway, like the second choice?
I did not.
Leonard Nimoy, which would have been
I would have loved that. That would have been great. And he would have had the bigger role because he was mid-80s. He was a director already at that point. I think it was this year, next year, he did Three Men and a Little Lady off the success of directing Star Trek films, because he branched out as, not tanking those films, unlike Mr. Shatner, who did. But the only other thing I want to say, and I didn't know this until looking this up right now when I was looking for stuff for that documentary, due to his health, Price's scenes were reduced, as you know. But during his final scene, the inventor's death, Price fainted on camera during that take, and that's the take in the film. So when he passes, that's him actually passing out. Yeah. So that's a hell of a. No wonder it looks so real. My goodness. But no, this is I guess it's old enough. We always forget at our age that there is a generation of people who honestly have probably never heard of this film. That while big in its day, in $20 million budget, $86 million box office, as odd as that may sound, that is a smaller scale film that I don't necessarily has this permeated the pop culture consciousness of 2026. Older people, yes. Younger people, I'm going to guess, maybe have never heard of this movie. Am I crazy?
So, and this is an interesting one where, yeah, I think it's kind of fallen off, right? People may have heard of it or just know of they've seen a visual or something, uh, still shot of Johnny Depp as Edward Scissorhands. But this was one, I want to say 1 or 2 years ago, we pulled out and watched, like, we were trying to think of a movie that the family could all watch, and we're like, oh, Edward Scissorhands is kind of cool. And my son is pretty notorious, my son's 13 now, so he was probably 11 at the time, is notorious for if something doesn't hold his interest, like he's out 20 minutes, he's like leaving the room. And we put this on, and this is one of those, like, he just kind of kept locked into, it does a great job of just the heart, but there's still a little bit of weirdness to it, and it's so unique, even though it's a universal story of someone just that's different, that's trying to belong. It's I think if it's introduced, it has latching power, but it just has kind of fallen off the wayside a little bit because, I mean, it's 35 years old.
So I just texted a 25-year-old I work with, and he has been up and down on a lot of different pop culture stuff because of his age, right? Now, I will tell you, this is a fascinating thing to me. I know until a month ago, this man had never heard of or seen Borat. Now, and that's from what, 2008? This 1990 film, I asked him, have you ever heard of or watched Edward Scissorhands? And he said, I've heard of it, I haven't watched it. So what does that say maybe about the culture of how much it has gotten out there?
Yeah, I think, and it's not.
And he's not
for
like
everything,
a cinephile type, is what I mean.
no, but I
like in
think
my mind,
there's
average
certain
guy.
movies too that for whatever reason just permeate the cable realm and are just always on the weekends and stuff like that. And this one just never seems to be one of those for whatever reason.
Right.
Like you have to seek it out.
It probably tone what they have to cut to get it on the air. It probably couldn't fit in a lot of those windows, I would guess. I don't know.
Yeah. It's but Burton says it's his favorite movie that he's ever done. So, and it's sort of a love letter to his growing up in Burbank, from kind of his eyes. Not that he grew up with a guy that had scissors for hands in his neighborhood.
Also, this shows his evolution as a filmmaker. This is another one of his ideas that is totally him and his vibe, in his world and his aesthetic. But it's not a comedy. It's not a superhero blockbuster. It's not based on an existing character of any kind, because even Pee-wee was. It's just him, doing. I don't want to use this term necessarily derogatorily, but it's him making his art for art's sake. It's him making the movie he wants to make, hoping people will watch it, like it, enjoy it. But it's really, this is his personal story. Is this the first movie he's made that is a proper personal story? I would say yes.
Yeah. And I think the most impressive thing about it to me is that it is very obviously these pastel colored houses. It looks like, it's taking place on a movie set or something like that. Like the world that we're into does not look real per se. And we have our protagonist is a guy with blades for hands and who has been constructed as a humanoid. But for whatever reason, we start to put that aside as the movie goes on, right? Like we are just invested in the relationships and Edward trying to make it and how the people accept him. And there's something very cool to that. Like just, it's this, how we get this, all sorts of absurdities going on around in this movie, but we are able to kind of push through it to just get to the heart of it. Really impressively done how the movie is just sort of that main storyline, even though it looks visually very different than what we would think if we heard that was the theme of the movie.
I don't want to get into a whole ton of alternate casting, but I do have one that I think is fascinating. Jim the Bully, Anthony Michael Hall, Crispin Glover auditioned for that. That would have been a
Yep.
wildly different take, because I feel like you'd have a weird, wiry, nerdy bully. And I don't just mean because I'm not thinking of him as George McFly. Think of him in so many roles. It's just his vibe, right? There's an off-putting, wiry weirdness to literally everything he's ever in. And it would just be, it would, here's my question. Instead of it being almost like a, jock nerd scenario, for lack of a better term, would it be a yin and yang where they're the same type of thing, but they're just on opposite sides? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this feels like it takes place in the 50s or 60s, right? So, I mean, I was almost like, could he be a yuppie-ish, but that's from the 80s, so I don't think that would work either. So that's interesting. I mean, Tom Cruise is considered for the role of Ed. Did you see that?
I did. I would say, to dial back to your previous point, I actually think that's a great idea and a good thought, because as people say, the first 2 years of a decade are still the last decade. You don't hit the 90s and become the 90s. 1990, when this movie came out, is still the 80s. So that vibe.
Oh, I'm not saying from that point. I'm just saying from where this appears to take place based on what we're looking at, right? Feels like that.
Oh, no. You had said that,
neighborhood.
Oh, okay. You had said, oh, no, it wouldn't do that because it's 90s. And I thought, based on, you said yuppies. And I was like, no, that's a good thought.
Oh, I just think because of how it visually looks, almost like a 1950s or 1960s neighborhood. That's where that stereotype made.
I might have missed. See,
well, I thought it worked with Anthony Michael Hall. I wouldn't have expected that, 5 years prior. But
sorry for the miscommunication. I think of yuppies as an 80s thing, which is why I was like, no, that's great. Yeah, you're right.
Gotcha.
So, my bad. Yeah.
I have one other note which I thought was pretty entertaining. That I found. So in preparation for this role, Johnny Depp consulted his Nightmare on Elm Street co-star Robert Englund.
England.
Not
England.
England.
Not England. England. Robert Englund.
Freddy Krueger. For tips on how to get around acting when you have blades attached to your fingers.
And that's the guy to fucking talk to in the 80s. You're absolutely right.
His one piece of advice was pee sitting down.
Fun fact about 1991, Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street, he came back for an uncredited cameo in the worst Nightmare movie ever made. 1991's The Final Nightmare. Freddy's dead.
Oh, and I take that back. I have one more note too, that Johnny Depp's hair and his was meant to emulate Robert Smith from The Cure.
I mean, you see that instantly. Yeah.
Who was asked to do the soundtrack, but Robert Smith was working on a album and also reportedly didn't know who Burton was, so he turned it down. So we got Danny Elfman instead. Everyone wins.
I mean, yeah, no regrets yet. There was a moment where I was like, did Danny Elfman skip out on Batman Returns in 1992? No, he did not. He came back for that one too. But Burton takes a year off. There is nothing in 91. No TV shows, no shorts, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He reflects on the success of Batman and Edward Scissorhands and Beetlejuice and what a run he's had. He deserves a year off. But they got to drive that dump truck of money up to him because they got to bring him back for Batman Returns. That said, boy, did the studio regret that one, because this is peak Burton with unlimited creative control to do anything he wants. This is, we often say, sometimes I think you don't want executives having creative control, but sometimes you need to rein people in. The best kind of products often come through compromise. Struggle breeds creativity, etc., etc. This is a great movie, and I enjoy this movie. But man, at the time, and even still today, it was divisive. It's not made for the kids who went to go see it. And McDonald's was pissed about that because they had a whole line of toys about murderous penguins who bite people's noses off.
Mm-hmm.
And the studio was like, what did you give us? What is this? But man, is this the most
And
Tim Burton
and a
thing that ever Tim Burton?
dominatrix cat. What's going on?
Oh God, do you like Batman Returns or do you not?
I do. Not as much as the original, which is probably not unique, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah, no, same. And it's again a solid cast. The villains do overshadow again. However, respect, Michael Keaton gets top billing this time. He knew his worth. He knew who he was. He's fucking Batman is who he is. I'm Batman. But it here's the deal though. It had about the same budget, frankly, I think. 50 to 80 million. That can't be right on Wiki. I would say it's about the same budget, 86 or a little higher. But this time it only grossed half of the previous film. The 488 of 1989 was a 266.8 in 1991. And that's some rough stuff. It's because of the tone change. It's darker, it's more divisive. It's a well-made movie, it's a pretty movie, it's a well-acted movie, but it was never a mainstream movie. It is the most non-mainstream mainstream movie you could have gotten in this era, is the way I would say that.
And it really explores gray areas for the villains, right? Like there was no, thing with the Joker. Like
Yeah, he was evil.
he was
That's
bad,
one of the
bad,
changes
bad.
we didn't talk about. The
Yeah,
Joker has never been, except for in the 1989 movie, The Man Who Killed Batman's Parents. You don't have a
right,
Joker origin story. In the comics, they've done like 4 origin stories for Joker, and part of the lore is you don't know which one is true.
right,
So, yeah, but and none of those fake origins were him killing Batman's parents.
right. There's a character, right, in the comic books.
Joe Chill is his name. Yes. And I don't think they even did that in Batman Begins. I don't think they gave him that name in Batman Begins. I could be wrong. But Batman Begins is much more close in that regard still. However, I like this movie, and this is one of the ones that I've liked more. I have liked more as I've gotten older. I've appreciated it more as I've gotten older. I still, this day, don't like the Penguin portrayal. The Catwoman portrayal is amazing. Everyone else is amazing.
Yep.
I like what they do with Penguin in the movie, accepting it is what it is. But think about the performance we got from what's his name, Colin, the recent Penguin series. I mean,
Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
Yep.
What's his nut to him both.
Yeah.
That's the Penguin, right? That's amazing. That's what you want the Penguin to be. Even in this era of comics, when he was maybe even a little more comic booky, that was the Penguin in this era still. This is an original take as ever, which is part of that whole Tim Burton going off the rails thing.
One of the cool things about the Penguin's portrayal and Colin Farrell, or even even the campy old ones of Burgess Meredith, is that he is the one kind of running the underground thing, right? Like he is pulling the strings behind the scenes, and in this, he's really just a pawn for Max Schreck.
And he's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot in this. He doesn't know.
So he's raised by penguins, so it's
it doesn't
sewer penguins. So
it does bring the movie down for me, and I'm positive that the Penguin portrayal as a famous villain who was well liked, I'm sure this was part of the word of mouth that hurts this movie, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, props to Danny DeVito for sticking to the character, right? Like, I mean, but it's so no fault of him, but it does bring the movie down as a whole because of the portrayal, knowing his place, what it should be in the whole Gotham lore.
Michelle Pfeiffer as Lena Kyle Catwoman, amazing take, great take, inspired the animated series take. Shockingly survives the film, even though that never matters because the film that would go into development hell eventually became the terrible Halle Berry one.
Right.
So, like, eventually, after a long, terrible road, Christopher Walken, surprisingly great in this as a random businessman. One of my favorite line deliveries of just an idiot of all time. At the end of the movie, when Batman's unmasked, he goes, "Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed like Batman?" Like, he still doesn't get it. I'm like, God, I love... And then Selena Kyle's just like, "He is Batman, you idiot."
Should have put some glasses on. That would have helped.
I love that. It just made me laugh. I don't know what to say. Trivia. Obviously, we know Paul Rubens, Pee-wee, plays the Penguin's father in the beginning and abandons
Hmm.
him. They originally wanted Burgess Meredith to do that, but he either wasn't in good health at the time or wasn't available. That said, he got better. He lived for a long time. He went to do 2 grumpy old men movies as the grandpa.
Yep.
So, he got better, but just wasn't available, but they wanted him originally. It's a fascinating film that I actually just, of anything else we've talked about so far, I actually recommend this one people watch the most because of what a wild swing it is. I want people to
Mm.
experience and see this movie, to see an unhinged, power hungry, power mad director who's not a dick about it. He just was given everything he wanted, and you see it on screen, and it doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So you at several times throughout the movie are like, this is a Batman movie. um, which that's kind of I think what Burton wanted to do, but
Which is one, but it's not what the people wanted. That's the problem. He made the movie he wanted, but he didn't make the movie anybody really wanted to see.
it becomes one of those things where built in, it's going to make money because people are going to go see Batman because the first one was just stellar and such a phenomenon. So I think that padded out a lot of its box office. You knew that was built in, but like we said, and we think, I mean, I'm sure the studios were expecting double, if not more, than this.
Last thing I'll say about everything that happened with Batman Returns and Tim Burton on Batman is they did come to him to do what became Batman Forever early on because he's Tim Burton and he directed these.
Mm-hmm.
And it still made a good amount of money. But his quote was, while he was unsure, I don't think Warner Brothers wanted me to direct the third Batman. I even said that to them because there's a tale he tells in a meeting of basically like he sat down to talk about what the third one would be. And they were like, Tim, don't you want to work on a personal project? What would you like to work on? And he's like, you don't want me to make this movie, dude. And, basically in my mind, there's a guy from McDonald's in the back cracking their knuckles. Like, I don't know, buddy. You tell me. You tell me with the Happy Meal toys. But Batman Returns still made money. He's still on a run, by the way. He hasn't made, in my mind, like, whatever I may say about one or two quibbles or things, he hasn't really made a bad movie yet. You know what I mean?
No.
He's crushing it with the box office, with the stuff, with the Murmurderski. And I haven't looked up box office for Ed Wood yet, but I know that was critically acclaimed. Comes out in 1994,
Right.
and I love it. I love Ed. Ed Wood is fucking fantastic. It's so just the style and the performances. And this is Tim Burton unleashed, but on a smaller budget, on a smaller scale. And maybe that's just where he works better because, man, does it work. It's the tale of filmmaker Ed Wood, who made, at the time, to still some people maybe considered the worst movie ever, Plan 9 from Outer Space, a hack filmmaker who had a lot of gender identity issues, sexuality issues, and things he was working through. A fascinating, terrifying life, portrayed by Johnny Depp, still in the height of Johnny Depp being a great actor, developing his craft, coming, early 90s. My goodness. Supporting performance from Orlando as an aging Bela Lugosi, Sarah Jessica Parker, Bill Murray, unfortunately Jeffrey Jones again. Just, my goodness, I can't say enough good things about the presentation and execution of this movie. And I just have this fear you're going to be like, I don't like it.
Oh, no. No, I enjoy it. It is Burton in his element, right? He takes the misunderstood person who's trying to make it in a world where people don't see it the way that he does. And he being Ed Wood, not being Burton, but maybe Burton too. And so I'm sure he feels a oneness with that. And the way that this could easily have been not slapstick, but just like, how disastrous is this? And it shows the heart that he's going into it, that Ed Wood just makes really bad decisions making movies.
But he thinks he's doing everything right.
But he's really committed to it and he believes in it. And the heart of that shows through the whole way, which is great. Like, that it's,
with
there's
his
something
moxie,
endearing.
If Ed Wood had just a little talent, he would have gone so far. Just a little, but he had none.
But there's something endearing to that, and that Burton really taps into. And whether it's that, and then Bela Lugosi, just to find this the larger than life character who's now fallen on all these other things. I mean, George Animal Steel is awesome in it. I mean, just like there's so many great little bits and casting that works, and so you got this. I think behind the scenes look at old Hollywood is always fun anyway. And so this is a little bit of a different take because it's so glamorized, old Hollywood, and this is old bad Hollywood, and it's really interesting.
I do want to mention a couple of things. After every film so far being scored by Danny Elfman, he is not scoring this one. This is Howard Shore. Apparently, they had a strained say again.
Oh, I was gonna say, you know why, but you're about to explain it. So.
Oh yeah. No, I'll get you there, baby. They had a bit of a falling out, strained relationship at the end of Batman Returns, and then they fell out during Nightmare Before Christmas, which I would like to note. You may have noticed we didn't talk about that one in this era. So many people think he directed Nightmare Before Christmas. He did not. His concept, produced it, heavily involved with the aesthetics. He did not direct that film. It was a man named Henry Selick, who I've looked nothing up on, but he did not direct that movie, which is why we have not talked about it, other than the fact I didn't look up the falling out, why they fell out. If you have that, great. But it was related to the time around these films.
No, it was because originally Danny Elfman was the voice of Jack Skellington, and he took him off of that.
I didn't know that. I had missed that. Interesting.
And then became,
why? What's the reasoning?
I didn't see a why. I just saw that he originally was, and then he took him off.
He stole the singing voice, though.
Yes. Who is it? Chris Sarandon? Chris Sarandon? Yeah.
Yes, Mike Norris in Child's Play and the Jerry Dandridge in Fright. No? He's done other stuff.
I'm with you.
I think he got an Oscar nom for something, but to me, he's Jerry Dandridge in Fright. I fucking love that. But no, this is I love Ed Wood. It's visually stunning. Another evolution of him as a filmmaker, and it actually is one of those movies that how do I phrase this? Retroactively breaks my heart because I like a lot of what he's about to do that we're going to talk about. He is never this good again. And it has been, let's see, 14, it's been over 30 years. He has made good movies. He has made blockbuster movies. He has made movies I like. I'm not saying he's done. That is not what I'm saying. But he is never this good again after Ed Wood. This is his creative peak. This is everything I want from Tim Burton. Everything is gelling right. I love the next movie. The next movie I fucking adore. But if we were talking creatively, Ed Wood's the peak. Yeah. The thoughts, counter arguments?
No, I agree. This is it feels lovingly made, and that's why it comes through on the screen. I'll give you 3 notes, the other things that I had. You asked about box. It did lose money technically. It was an $18 million budget, $14 million box. But, I mean, so critically acclaimed and has lived on, I think, it's become more beloved as it's gone along. So I think that people kind of push that aside. I mean, Martin Landau won the Academy Award. It won the Academy Award for Best Makeup. Like, it's... this is one of those where I think we look at it and we go, I don't know if this movie was ever gonna destroy the box office, right? Like this,
it wouldn't have. You would hope it would turn a profit. It's a shame that it didn't.
But lived on. The one note that I found that I thought was pretty funny, and just because you and I have a fondness for this character's or for this person's impression of him. So Vincent D'Onofrio was Orson Welles. Right.
Oh, I forgot about this trivia. I know this. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. But Burton didn't like Orson Welles or his voice for Orson Welles, so he dubbed over Maurice LaMarche, who obviously has done many. He did it on The Critic, right, for the Peas.
Maurice LaMarche has done so much. He is such an amazing voice actor. He has such a resume. But man, has he made a living off that same voice. He is crushing the Orson Welles voice and making bank off of it. Great job.
So good. So
Yes.
I was
By the way,
delighted to read that.
not that he would ever hear this or anyone would ever mention this, but he follows me on Threads. That makes me happy.
Oh, okay.
Videos. I popped more than that, and then like other people who followed me, I was like, oh, Maurice Marsh follows me, and then I like said that to somebody who lives in LA, and she's like, oh, that's my friend's dad, and I was like, what? So anyway, there you go.
I do have a friend from college who did some kind of background extra work in her 20s and 30s who is casual acquaintances with Maurice LaMarche, which is pretty
nice.
crazy.
What a small world is what I'll tell you. What a small world. Any other thoughts on Ed Wood before we move on?
No. Let's go from the loving, understated take to
Mars Attack. Mars Attacks, 1996. I adore this movie. I love this movie. It at best broke even. It was as or more divisive, I think, than Batman Returns. People who love this movie love this movie. People who don't love it really they're like, what was this? The marketing I remember being everywhere. The cast was insane. I remember the hype for this being off the charts, and I've always loved it, always. But on a budget of $100 million, it made $101.4 million. So good job. You can't say it lost, but man, it was. I remember a lot of people just shit talking this movie, and as a 13-year-old, I was like, "What are you talking about? This is amazing. It has everything. It's got hilariousness, it's aliens, and action, and there's a little bit of drama, and there's weird voices, and and I'm just like, this is Martin Short as a pervert. It's everything 13-year-old me wanted was in this movie, and I've only loved it more as I've gotten older. But man, it kind of fucking bombed pretty hard. But I think it hurt his career. I think it hurt his career properly because he did put out a movie in 99 that rebounded him. We'll get there. But this was, I remember him getting dinged for this one. Even when I was a kid, I remember him getting dinged for this one on shows like Entertainment Tonight. But talk to me about Mars Attacks, what you like about it or don't like about it, your thoughts on it. Hit me with Randy's take on Mars Attacks.
So I think had a similar take on it. I wasn't as enamored with it when I first saw it. And that could have been a marketing thing where I just saw like over and over and inundated with it, was expecting it to be this completely over the top thing.
Wasn't it?
What's that?
Wasn't it completely over the top? You said you were expecting it to be a completely over the top thing.
Sorry, over the top in maybe a more, I don't know, not large scale, but bigger appeal to a broader audience, maybe something like that. To your
point, you are correct. I think after the initial invasion, the scale and tone is a bit fucked up at times. I think they handle the first act. The first act is one of my favorite acts, where you're introducing everybody, and then the aliens attack, and that initial attack is so amazing. There is a late fall off. I will give you a big late fall off.
And part of it, and I've seen things about this. When did Independence Day come out?
96.
96. So was it? I don't even know. Was it released around
Mars
the same
Attacks,
time?
Yeah,
or...
I've always looked at this as, I was stunned by this because it's the same thing that I think happened with like those two movies where the White House got invaded in the same year. Those two movies where there's a volcano. Those two movies where an asteroid's going to hit the Earth. Sometimes you just have a twin film. Did someone steal an idea? Was there a leak? Are these movies? Why are these movies? Did you hear something's going to come out, so you rush something into production? You get a twin film that one of them is always going to be the lesser one for the year. And Mars Attacks, whatever I may think about it, and I love Independence Day, is the lesser film for the year.
And maybe Independence Day just sort of adhered more to the traditional, we're fighting against the aliens, we're the good guys, you know, this type of thing, where Mars Attacks way more tongue-in-cheek. And I think probably that's why the more I saw it as I got older, the more I liked it, because I kind of saw it for the kind of farce that it is, you know, it was satire. And I didn't necessarily expect that when I first saw it. I think that maybe that's part of it. I thought, to the extent going in, and maybe this is just my own naivete as a 15-year-old or whatever when I was watching it, was that even though the Martians looked all crazy, there would still be a little bit more not completely ridiculousness to it, right? And it really ties into the B movie aspect of it, which I appreciated more and more as I kind of understood that later as I saw it.
He wanted to make a 50s B movie
different expectation going in.
Trading cards from the 50s.
Yeah.
Now, dialing back to what you're going to say is they are both cut from the initial cloth, Independence Day and Mars Attacks, of the Poseidon Adventure, Towering Inferno, Airplane, of lots of faces and names and stars in a situation, right? I think the reason Independence Day took over is because it's tied to what you're saying. It did it without fucking with the formula. It did a Poseidon Adventure. It did an airplane, not airplane, airport. I said airplane both times. Airport, which airplane paired. It did that disaster film with the names, but oh boy, what a situation we're in. I don't think, especially without Independence Day, this might have played better. I don't think people were ready for what felt like a parody months after. I say
That's
months
fair.
after. I got to check release dates.
I mean, I thought Independence Day came out around 4th of July, right? Like, didn't?
Oh, it absolutely did. I just don't know when Mars Attacks came.
Oh, I thought it was like on August, but
December of '96. So that also could say something. But then again, it was the week before Christmas. So they expected big things. That's a Christmas release. They expect people to go out and see this movie. So
maybe that's part of it too, because it's so satirical that they thought maybe because the Martians are weird looking, but they're kind of like cute and cartoony.
Yeah.
And they're real bastards. So it's like maybe that kind of turned off the family component of it. Maybe they thought that it would have more of that vibe, but
100%. That is a great take. Good job, you. I'm looking for a couple of things. It was considered to be a box office. So this is just me reading Wikipedia. Don't mind me. This is not an original thought I'm having. The film was considered to be a box office bomb in the U.S. It achieved greater success and critically and commercially in Europe. But obviously,
that's interesting.
Here we go. Here's Tim Burton's quote on Independence Day. This is what I was looking for. It was just a coincidence. Nobody told me about it. I was surprised at how close it was. But it is a pretty basic genre, I guess. Independence Day was different in tone. It was different in everything. It seemed like we had done the Mad Magazine version of Independence Day. I was like, yeah, that makes it way more niche. That's fair.
Yeah.
Definitely a cult classic at this point, I think.
Sure.
But moving on. Hang on. I got a couple more things.
A
little bit more trivia.
I got a little fun trivia too. Yeah,
I did take a few notes on this one just because I love it. I forgot I had. I'd asked, why is Jack Nicholson in a double role? Because he loved the script so much when he finally got it. He'd originally agreed to work with Tim Burton without one. Then he even joked, I'd like to just play all the roles. So they gave him 2. The studio said, you can't kill Jack Nicholson in this movie. So they killed him twice just to say, fuck you, which is great.
At one point, Michael Keaton was scheduled or considered for art.
That would have been great. That feels like a Michael Keaton.
That would have been fun, yeah.
Yeah. That would have been great, but I still like what pulled
It's still great.
Although
they did,
I like Jack Nicholson more as the president than himself.
Agreed.
This is, shockingly, Michael J. Fox's last film where he doesn't either play himself or it's a documentary. This is the last time he played a character in a movie.
Wow.
Which is wild to me.
When was the American President? Was that the year before?
That was the year before, 95.
Okay.
Yeah, it's wild.
He's great in that, man.
He is. I missed, after the first act, I really missed having Jack Nicholson and Pierce Brosnan on screen together. I wish we'd had more of that than Pierce Brosnan with Sarah Jessica Parker. I really like Pierce Brosnan in this. He's a lot of fun. And man, just him as advisor to Jack Nicholson, I was loving that on the rewatch. I was like, I want another 20 minutes of them just figuring this out wrong. Just doing this wrong. The scene with Congress, the second attempt at peace where the Martian ambassador comes out. It made me just think of our world today, where our elected officials have always been stupid. And then finally, Jack Nicholson's, this is not, it is an our Independence Day level speech, but man, Jack Nicholson's, listen, we got 2 out of the 3 branches of the government working for you, and that ain't bad, is pretty good to me. It's not on par, but God, I loved it. It got me.
It's pretty funny. I agree. I like him as the president much more.
I think I would have
him as
liked Art more if it was Michael Keaton and he just focused on being the president. That would have been great.
That would have fit. The only couple things I had, unless you have more, go for it.
No, please.
Okay. The I mean, they're most know the Martians was actually just a placeholder in the script for like Martian noise, and then they just left it in as ack ack ack, and that became the sound that they did, which was pretty funny. The voice of the Martian translator, right, the one that's like, "Do not run, we are your friends," like anytime. That the voice of that was actually Roger L. Jackson.
Oh, I know this.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Who becomes the voice of Ghostface in Scream, and it was basically his work on this. They got him the audition for the voice of Ghostface in Scream.
Man,
like,
you love how
sliding doors
connect.
there.
Yeah, you love how things connect, because obviously we talked so much about that movie. Thanks, Mars Attacks. We need it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say I'm ready to move on to Sleepy Hollow. Before we do, you had mentioned that there are a few films at the end that you weren't as familiar with. And in my mind, at the end, because there's only 1, 2, 3 left, was going to be everything after Mars Attacks.
Okay. Then yeah,
I'm asking, are those the films you said you're not familiar with?
No, I may even been referring to much later in his career. I've seen all 3 of the other ones. So
okay, great. Because
the next one, it's been a while, but the other 2. Yeah. Okay. Then I'm good.
So, okay, cool. So based on thinking we were stopping in 2004, I thought, oh, has he not seen a couple, which I could have understood a couple that we're going to talk about here. I didn't realize Sleepy Hollow 1999 was the hit that it was. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I remembered Sleepy Hollow differently. I got my first ever job at Hollywood Video, and this is one of the films that was a new release. And so I saw this cover all the time, and I think I didn't watch this till years later, and I rewatched it yesterday. In my mind, because I was like detesting the cover for some reason mentally, thought, well, that movie didn't do anything. No, this movie made over $100 million. This is a big hit. People liked this movie. I didn't realize that until very recently. Do you like Sleepy Hollow?
I did. The weirdest thing of it to me is it is the least Burton feeling movie that
I disagree.
To me, it feels more, I don't know, like Sherlock Holmesian or something like that. I don't know. The way that the story kind of lends out. Maybe it's just because he hasn't approached something like this as much. Like it does feel like a departure. I will agree with that. Any of his forays into horror-ish type stuff are more comedic. So maybe this is a little bit different. But to me, I still liked it. It's an interesting take on it. I did you watch the show at all? Which is unrelated to this, but
Sleepy Hollow, the show? No, I don't even know what you're talking.
Oh, okay. There was a Fox dramatic series, Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, okay.
I'm just thinking of other adaptations of the short story.
I mean, I know the Disney one, Mr. Ichabod one. Yeah.
So I thought this was an interesting interpretation of it. I mean, I liked the movie. Just that was my biggest takeaway from it, is that it didn't feel as Burton-esque to me.
The movie was fine. It is in the bottom of this era for me. Not at the bottom, but near, bottom half of the list. My thought with it is I do feel like it feels like Tim Burton, but my problem with it visually is it's Burton starting to become the Tim Burton factory style. The style that would be prevalent in so many of his later movies that I don't like. That over-dark, over-reliance on Johnny Depp. Over-reliance on... he's fine at this. He's okay. But there's something about this movie solidifies to me the Tim Burton house style. That he would break a couple of times, but he wouldn't break it for Corpse Bride or Sweeney Todd or Dark Shadows or Frankenweenie or Big Eyes, or it's movies that I really don't like.
Yeah.
or even to a degree, Alice in Wonderland, as colorful it is, he ate Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which took some of this, and I hate that movie. We're stopping
Yeah.
before we get to that one. It's a good movie, a fine movie with good performances. Last gasp of Jeffrey Jones. Fuck off. Have a good life. I actually don't, because but it solidifies the house style, as I've said a couple times. Sorry for being redundant. Thoughts on that? Am I barking up the wrong tree? Am I sounding crazy?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of the changes in his style is usually tied into who he is dating or married to at the time. But he's still with Lisa Marie at this point, so maybe they're on the outs. But
I would say yes, because he meets Helena Bonham Carter in the next movie, and that starts like a very long relationship.
Yeah.
So a very long relationship, incidentally, that starts the downfall of film. So maybe
yeah, weird.
Thanks a lot, Helena, about it. That's such a dick thing to say. It's his own fault.
Yeah.
But
the couple notes that I had on this was that we got another Academy Award for art direction. So even though I thought visually, I guess it's just because you're pulling back the 18th century motif that's sometimes gets a lot of costuming or art direction love if you pull it off well. And then when Burton was at Disney in the early 80s, one of his art direction animation teachers, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Instructors,
professors, mentors. That's the word I'm looking for there. It took a second. Worked on the original cartoon Legend of the Sleepy Hollow, Bing Crosby thing. So it's kind of a cool tie-in to what that was.
Cool. We haven't talked in every movie about Roger Ebert, but man, he did love this one. He said it was the best looking horror film since Bram Stoker's Dracula, 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Wow,
like, hey,
okay.
Good for him.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on, though, to, oh boy, Planet of the Apes 2001. And this is his first swing and a miss. This is his first real swing and a miss in his career. I didn't like this movie when it came out. I rewatched parts of this movie yesterday. I couldn't bear to watch the whole thing, but I watched as many clips as I could find to kick the tires on the memory. This is a bad movie. It made a ton of money, which I didn't remember, because I also remember everyone hating it when it came out. I think this is a case of word of mouth killed it. It made a ton of money immediately because it's Tim Burton making Planet of the Apes. And then it stopped because, oh my God, what the hell is this? That ending. Abraham Lincoln. When Mark Wahlberg winds up in was it time travel? Is it parallel universe? Whatever it is, the Lincoln Memorial's got the face of a monkey.
So, and there is a bunch of different takes on this. I thought that it was the apes had figured out how to time travel, and the gorilla beat him back.
But that's just it. I don't think they had. He took the only ship. I think that is such a nonsensical ending because it has no basis in my mind on anything I remembered or saw. I think you're inferring because your brain needs to fill the logic gap.
Maybe.
Well, that had to happen. I don't think that's there in reality, personally. But they never continued this series. Big twist ending, big cliffhanger, and it just, with the word of mouth and what happened, they canceled the sequel. They rebooted it years later, about a decade later, with the much more successful Andy Serkis series of films, which I like those. Those are fine. They're not the best thing ever made, but they're entertaining enough. I liked the first one quite a bit.
Maybe a unique take, too. So it's nice.
Exactly. It's different. It's original. They're not just rehashing everything you remember, you know what I mean, from fucking Planet of the Apes, which frankly this one does. Also, I'm a little uncomfortable with the love triangle between the blonde girl, Mark Wahlberg, and Helena Bonham Carter as a date. I don't know. There's something about it. Why does he have sexual tension with a monkey? It makes me uncomfortable. I don't know. Maybe that's raising something within me that I'm concerned with. I bet furries love this fucking movie. Or do furries just want people in mascot costumes? Do they want to fuck animals? Or do they just want to fuck people in mascot costumes?
Yeah. Sorry, YouTube.
That's a genuine question. Do you know the answer? That's not me doing a bit. I want to know.
Oh, you can Google that. I'm not putting that on my search history.
I will. Thoughts on this movie before while I do that?
I think you're right. It's just this. The reason it did so well. I mean, it's a true blockbuster in terms of its look and execution, right? But the in a lot of true blockbuster ways that they develop, not necessarily the most amazing story in the world, just a lot of action and impressive visuals. But
I don't think the visuals are as impressive as things he's done in the past more creatively. These feel like impressive visuals anyone could have done. I don't feel Tim Burton in this movie.
But I mean, from a blockbuster standpoint, right?
Sure,
like just people just go as a movie going experience, not necessarily as a Burton movie. And
it doesn't feel like a Tim Burton movie to me at all. And maybe that's part of why I don't care for it as much. Or maybe even nonsensical script aside, twist aside, Mark Wahlberg is fine, but it doesn't feel like Tim Burton. He doesn't bring anything to it.
This is pretty early in his acting development too, I think.
I did see the trivia fact that because he had just stopped being a Calvin Klein model, despite Charlton Heston appearing in most of the movie with a loincloth, they did not put Mark Wahlberg in a loincloth because they didn't want people to remember he was the model guy.
Right.
So, and also, so you're aware, no, most furries do not want to fuck animals. 83% of furries, according to Google AI, and you can trust Google AI, really only want anthropomorphic cartoon characters, movies, costumes, mascots, etc.
I see.
So they are diverse. They really want the community aspect of the art.
So if somebody was wearing a costume,
they fucking love these movies, probably. Oh my god, I hadn't thought about this all.
So the 68 movie, they would have gone nuts.
Oh my god, it's all connected. This is like the MCU. The Planet of the Apes, 2001, and the 60s.
And there's time travel, right? So we know that the furries could go back and so it's.
Could you see? I just imagined a furry going to see the 2011 one, and they go back and they're like, "Don't see it, guys. Don't see it." They're like, "Not a costume to be had. Everything's a fucking computer. What? We used to be a proper society."
Yes. That this is a heck of a transition,
we used to be America.
Roger Ebert
is a furry?
No. His take on it was, I don't remember what his actual rating was, but he said this respected the original. It was a respectable movie, but he said 10 years later people would still be watching this 1968 version. I think that's the right 100%. Take.
That is absolutely the right take. Well said, Mr. Ebert, and well said you reiterating, Mr. Ebert. But dialing back to Burton, as we said, it really doesn't have its aesthetics. It doesn't have its feel. I was going to say it's his first swing and a miss creatively, because obviously it made money. But the legacy, people remember this movie because of the twist, and they're making fun of the twist. That's what people remember.
Sure.
But the next movie, 2003's Big Fish, I adore this film. I love this film. It's so well made. It's so him and great performances. And this is where I plant my flag and say this is the last good Tim Burton movie. You look at Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, Alice in Wonderland, Dark Shadows, Frankenweenie, Big Eyes, Dumbo, and the Beetlejuice sequel. I will plant my flag and say this was the last time Tim Burton was great.
Great, yes.
Yes.
There's a couple that I'm like, oh, I did,
I'd watch Corpse Bride and not hate
it. Was interesting, right? Yeah, like that's the one. And
Sweeney Todd was okay. But that's what I meant
Did
to
you
say.
see Dumbo?
This is the last time. No, I didn't care for it. I saw. I don't like the Dumbo cartoon, so I wasn't the target audience for the Dumbo movie. I really have never liked that. But Charlie and the Chocolate Factory I detest that film.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But Big Fish, and I remember being so excited.
Mean. That's what I don't like about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I remember being, and Big Fish is not mean. It's hopeful, loving, creative. I remember being so excited for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was genuinely hyped up because I got
Mm-hmm.
into films and I knew directors at that point, and I knew history, and I loved Big Fish, and I knew what Tim Burton had done, and oh my God, fucking hell. Anyway, back to Big Fish. What works? Why? These are questions to you. What works? Why does it work? And why has he never been able to recapture it?
So I think this has the approach of Ed Wood, but the allowing himself to look into a story with the lens of a Beetlejuice or a Pee-wee's Big Adventure or Edward Scissorhands, even if you wanted to call it that. Like the fantastical is told lovingly, and that's the best part about all this. And I think what brings it all together, so you get all these tales and everything as we go on and on, at the end, when we realize that it is an exaggeration of things, but it is not made up, is the best part, right? Like that is, yes, this giant was not 9 feet tall, but he was 7.5 feet tall or whatever,
Yes.
you know, like
His dad wasn't completely bullshitting him. His dad was loving
right.
telling him stories. Yes.
And but these stories were part of ways to describe, you know, how he was getting through his life and the things and the impact that he had on people and these people had on him. He was able to make it a flowery, more fantastical story, but there's nothing wrong with being a good storyteller. And it just and Burton loves that. And so he lovingly tells that story, and his visual style works so well with that kind of an idea. So who wrote this? That's the one thing I didn't know.
Oh, I actually looked this up. It's based off a
August.
novel, but the screenwriter had read the novel 6 months before he wrote it, and he convinced Columbia Pictures to get the rights to the novel so he could write it as a screenplay.
Mm.
They were trying to get Spielberg to direct it, but he went and did Catch Me If You Can.
That's interesting, because it's great with Burton's aesthetic.
It could have been good
I think-
Spielberg, but it would just look different.
I think
it felt
it's-
different.
God, I can't
But
believe
man,
I'm
it
saying
hits
this.
Spielberg
I think it's
themes.
better. I think it's better with Burton though. I can't believe
Agreed.
I'm saying that. Like,
But it does hit Spielberg themes of fathers
Yeah.
and sons and relationships. Burton's the right way to go for this type of project, but
Yep.
this isn't one of those ones where I'm like, that would have never worked. Burton's better, but it could have worked.
He is also, I mean, again, I think he shows some restraint with it too, which helps. Right? Like he lays into all of the exaggerations within the little tales and the stories, but it's all tied together. It never seems like it goes off the rails with anything. We believe this eventually at the end because of the restraint
Everything.
that he's shown.
I really appreciate I really appreciate the casting of Ewan McGregor, and I feel like both
He's
Ewan
great in this,
McGregor and Tim Burton were coming into this with something to prove, coming off of Planet of the Apes and the Star Wars prequels respectively, which while they all made money, they all felt a little soulless at times. Ewan McGregor was coming into this acting his ass off in the middle of the prequel trilogy, and frankly, apparently he does an uncredited cameo as the voice of the Big Fish. But I'm glad, and I'm sorry to harp on this, I'm glad Johnny Depp's not in this. He would have felt wrong. He would have changed the energy. He would have changed the look. His style, especially with what we're about to get, because his next is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'm really glad he's not in this. It feels better without him.
Well, I think they said too in the casting part of it, they saw a picture of Albert Finney as a young man and were stunned at how much he looked like Ewan McGregor. So they were like, "This is perfect."
But apparently Burton liked it. This is just me reading again, I'll be honest. He liked the Big Fish screenplay because he felt it was the first unique story he'd been offered since Beetlejuice. So that's interesting. I feel like that, I guess offered because Ed Wood and Edward Scissorhands, those are his. He wasn't offered something, so I'll buy that. That's fair. Um, that's a great film, great era, great vibes. I already listed why I think he went off the rails. I've already talked about why I think he went off the rails. Well, I don't know why he went off the rails. Why he started forcing that house style. Why things didn't feel as creative. It felt like he was doing himself by the numbers after this film for a lot
Yeah.
of things. And the thing is, I doubt he felt that way, right? I don't know the man. I'm not in his head. I'm sure he was giving it his all. But as an outsider, I really felt like he was forcing. And honest to God, this is where the the Johnny Depp stuff comes in. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, Alice in Wonderland, Dark Shadows. It's a run of bad movies with the same writer, same director and actor that I'm just like, can we stop? Can we please
Yeah.
stop with this? Yeah.
And we lose the whimsy, right? Like it just it, everything feels kind of flat and blah. Again, I'm just as I'm looking through it, like Charlie and Chocolate Factory was just kind of mean spirited and just too weird for its own good. I mean, Corpse Bride, like I said, it is a little bit more,
Here's my
but
thoughts on that. Is Big Fish introduced him to computer animation to some degree. Well,
mhm,
Planet of the Apes, somewhat, but those are costumes. Big Fish had more. They even say in the trivia that he resisted using computer effects. He wanted just for some color grading. But if you look at everything he did after this film, from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with all the Oompa Loompas and the little guy, Deep Roy, playing all of them, up through I know this movie was popular. I know this movie made money. I know this movie was big to some people. But I think Alice in Wonderland is one of the ugliest movies I've ever seen in my life. It is
it's
hideous to me.
it's
And
tough.
there's
Yeah.
so much computer everything, and it looks just terrible. And that there's this evolution of his house style being flat. That was the word that triggered me here that you said that I
Mm,
thought was perfect. It feels flat.
that's remember that made me think of like the Void, like Alice in Wonderland, and
Mm.
like Deadpool and Wolverine, stuff like that,
Oh
or
yeah,
it's
well
just
said. Yeah.
like it didn't look. I mean, I get it. They had the whatever it was, the bad thing, the Jabberwock,
Yeah.
not the Jabberwocky, the or was it?
I don't
I don't
remember.
remember. I
I'll be
saw it a
honest, I
long
don't.
time ago and remember
Yeah,
being underwhelmed.
exactly. But that said, for a 20-year period,
hmm
there's more hits than misses by a mile. Things I would watch again over and over and have. And this was just fun to talk about. There's a lot more good here than bad. I worry that we delved into just talking about things we like and not actually discussing. But I still think we had some good points and we related some fun trivia. I hope people got something out of this. Do you have any final thoughts on Mr. Burton's career in this time?
I think it's really interesting that someone who, if you mention Tim Burton to them, they'll think more of that. Oh, kind of the weirder, the more visually different kind of director who made these movies that were a little bit out there. But then to go through and see that he was a pretty bankable director for that 20-year period, that his movies almost always made money. While I'd only one, like I said, Ed Wood made just missed a little and was critically acclaimed. So for someone to have that kind of staying power, and I guess he proved it because he kept doing other movies that ended up being not as good for the next 20 years. But I'm was surprised, I think, by that when I went and looked back at it. I knew I liked a lot of those movies, but I didn't realize that everybody else did too.
Yeah, yeah, good call. Great final thought out of Randy there, and we'll wind it down. Normal social media plugs like, subscribe, follow, comment, Mike Barcode on Instagram and TikTok. We hope you keep enjoying the show. We'll see you next time, and as always, I'll let Randy have the final word.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye, everybody.